Everyone, thank you for being here. We're excited that you're joining us for this webinar. We're just going to let people join in. So hang tight, grab some water, do what you need to do, and we'll be kicking off very soon. Thanks for being here. Okay, thanks everyone. My name is Henry Gordon-Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of Agritecture, and I have the proud honor to moderate this panel today, which is going to be all about energy efficiency. And it's obviously related to indoor farming and this topic that is getting a lot of attention. Now, as you know, energy efficiency is one of the most critical parts of these operations, and we have a range of experts from equipment to lighting technologies to energy technologies in these farms to help optimize them. I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. Got some questions for them. And then, of course, we want to hear all of your questions. Before we begin, here's some Zoom etiquette. It'd be great if you could introduce yourself on our group chat. You can tell us who you are, what your name is, where you're located, what your business is, anything you want to share that's within reason. And of course, we want to know, what your intention is for the event. You can share that, what you're hoping to learn, or at least just have it in your heart so you get the most out of it today and the right questions arise. And then you'll probably notice our little Q&A feature where you can ask questions. Some of the questions we'll answer live with one of the panelists or myself, or we will answer them in the chat by typing our answers to the questions. Before I introduce our panelists, I just want to talk a little bit about energy efficiency. There's no question that energy efficiency is critical in CEA, and it's also facing certain challenges. I'll get into some data related to energy efficiency in a moment. But first, I wanted to highlight some of the key challenges that we're facing. A lot of systems are not designed for the energy demand that they need. A lot of operations are not tracking energy and optimizing it efficiently. A lot of companies are not sharing information to benchmark energy efficiency. And in the face of volatile and certainly rising energy prices in certain markets, especially Europe, there's been a number of shutdowns that have been cited, where energy has been cited as the key challenge for that. So targeting energy efficiency is at the core of what CEA is, and strategic solutions, including top-notch companies like Montel, Voltserver, and Lumatek that are all here, that are leading the change and are going to share ways that they're optimizing energy efficiency for their projects and their clients. So really looking forward to getting into that. Let's start with some brief introductions, and then I'll give a little bit of intro into energy efficiency. Let's begin with you, Kevin. You're from Montel. How are you doing, Kevin?
Doing well. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, my name is Kevin Biernacki. I have been, I've been in the vertical farming space now, probably from the very beginnings. I approached Montel back in 2016 with an idea of going with vertical farm using LEDs. They helped put everything together. Working with them, we built what would be the very first vertical farm indoor cannabis in the country. So that was really unique. I since then went to California, built kind of the 2.0 version, bigger, better, stronger. And now I'm working with Montel to kind of help get companies through the struggles of that opening process.
Okay, fantastic. And Kevin, high level, what does Montel do related to energy efficiency, if you're going to put it briefly?
Well, mostly it's don't condition, empty space. We're a vertical racking company. So what we do is if you've got it's kind of like living in a vaulted ceiling house. If you're a single story, you're conditioning 20 feet of empty space. So what Montel does is we do vertical racking, multi-tiers. We do if you've got 20, 22, 23 foot ceilings, you want to go vertical and utilize that space as most efficiently as possible. Same thing with a single level. If you're doing single level, you've got 4 foot aisles. There's no reason to condition a multitude of 4 foot aisles. Have movable racks that you can move back and forth. Have a single 4 foot aisle. And so really, we're just kind of in the space of saving square footage.
Yeah, save space, save energy. James, tell us about your company, who you are, and what's your take or approach to energy efficiency?
Great, thanks, Henry. So I started in the industry as a researcher. I was a university professor for about 15 years, and I researched the economics of growing indoors, growing food indoors. After the university, I was an operator in what was at the time one of the largest vertical cannabis farms in the country. In fact, I think I was one of Montel's and Voltserver's first customers. After that, I left. I joined Voltserver about 3 years ago so they could expand their footprint in the indoor ag space. And what Voltserver does is it substantially reduces the cost and complexity of building and maintaining your electrical and controls infrastructure while improving energy efficiency. And the way it does it is basically we install these cabinets like the ones you see behind me in your electrical room. Those are Voltserver cabinets. Those cabinets transform the electricity you receive from your microgrid or your utility into the world's only form of high voltage DC power that's so safe you can install it using Ethernet-like wiring methods. And you can imagine that dramatically reduces the complexity of installing power. It reduces the components you need by about 75%. So eliminates conduit, GFCIs, breakers, even the drivers, the LED drivers in your grow spaces. Reduces labor by about 80%, and it improves electrical efficiency by up to 10% and even higher if you're on a microgrid. And finally, because the electricity is intelligent, it actually controls and monitors the energy usage in every individual device that it powers without the need for extra control infrastructure.
Very interesting. And I think that last part is why you call it digital energy. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's exactly correct.
And that's because it's trackable and controllable, which is very, very relevant. Over to you, Cláudia. You're in Porto, Portugal, or nearby there, which is great to have you joining us. Tell us a bit more about Lumatek and your guys' take and approach to energy efficiency.
Of course. So hi, everyone, and thank you for having me. So overseeing the projects division of our company, energy efficiency plays a key role. So I have experience in general lighting and came into the horticultural lighting world just about a year ago, and was really intrigued by the potential and the interesting industry where we're at. And I'm thrilled to be here to talk a little bit about Lumatek and how we handle energy savings. So what Lumatek does is provide energy efficient LED solutions that allow you to have optimal plant growth while having reduced costs. And these costs can be energy costs, HVAC costs. So this is what we can do to help you, amongst other things.
Thank you so much, Cláudia, Kevin, and James. Really glad you're here. So as we dive deeper into aspects of energy efficiency across a few different dimensions, let me just give a little bit of introduction. Agritecture tries to gather and share accurate data from the industry. One of the ways we do this is through a census, and this is from last year's census. So there was about almost 400 CEA operations that responded, and I was very shocked to see that 38% of them don't actually track data related to energy use. Doesn't necessarily mean they don't see their energy bill and they pay for it, but they're not necessarily tracking it and optimizing it. So that's a big problem. And we saw a range of answers across different parts of the world where people either do this, operators either do this or not. So I think, again, one thing is, are you tracking your energy efficiency? Do you understand what a big piece it is of your operations? And if you're not measuring it, it's hard to optimize it for sure. We also looked at self-reported amount of energy used, kilowatts per kilogram in CEA facilities. We saw dramatic differences between greenhouses and vertical farms. Since publishing this, I've gotten a lot of emails about the 38.8 kilowatt hours per kg. There's not a lot of information on this, so I think it was quite controversial and was interesting for people to see this. A lot of companies are claiming that they could be much lower than this. People have written articles about that, but it's good. Again, what we're trying to do is to help people at least benchmark based on this self-reporting. And we can see, of course, the dramatic differences between greenhouses and vertical farms from a kilowatt energy consumption. We also can see variations across the sizes of facilities. So smaller facilities tend to have a much higher kilowatt hour based on this report and this study and those who submitted that information, while the larger ones seem to be able to get more efficiency over time, which is interesting. And we can talk about why that might happen. And then if you're interested in getting more accurate benchmarking information for energy consumption, This is a snapshot of the OpEx breakdown from our reports on Agritecture Designer. This is about a 5,400 square meter bed space ebb and flow spinach facility. Just Isabel and I put one together and just wanted to share what that is. So you can see the percentage of total OpEx for this vertical farm is about 28%. Again, we can see ranges from 25% to 40% in some cases, depending on the operation. And again, that energy, as you can see, is quite divided mostly between the lighting and the HVAC. And we're going to talk about different ways that those specific energy costs can be made more efficient, optimized with the help of some of our partners here on the call today. But again, you can use Agritecture Designer to estimate various economic conditions for any CEA facility in the world and see what typical performance might look like, which may help you understand where you stand. Again, you can literally reverse engineer your own farm and see, are you better or worse than the typical estimates Agritecture has produced? Okay, so let's get started here with some questions. And I'm looking forward to also all of yours from the audience. Again, you're welcome to use the Q&A feature, or you can put them in the chat, but the Q&A feature is a little bit more effective for that. So let's start with you, James, because you're doing a lot on obviously energy systems for these operations. And we're going to talk about discussion point number 1, which is energy sources. So this is about, where energy is being sourced from for these indoor farms and how is it typically being delivered. Again, you talked about some of your innovative way of delivering it, but I'm just curious what you see as you work with all of these different farm operations and clients. And just share with the audience a little bit about this question of sourcing.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak mostly about our customers, and most of our customers still source from the grid, with a couple notable exceptions. We have a customer who's a large leafy green grower, and they are managing to produce almost all their electricity using solar. They try to time their crop schedule so that most of the growing is being done during these peak hours. And so, of course, there's sometimes there's not enough solar power, but there's periods of the year where they claim that they're over a 1 megawatt farm, and almost all that energy comes from solar. And now they're building a 5 megawatt farm, and they're building that with the intention of sourcing almost all their energy from solar. So it's a pretty amazing use case, and they might be the only company that's accomplished this so far that at least I'm aware of. But we are hearing, like you said, because of energy prices, we're definitely working with a lot of companies now that have the intention of using direct DC, because our system can take DC. It actually can improve the efficiency a lot, because it removes this conversion process when people convert AC to DC, like it's traditionally done using traditional electricity. There's a conversion loss. And so you can improve the efficiency of your microgrid if you go direct DC throughout your facility, direct DC into our system, into the lights or other equipment. So it's pretty interesting. And as you can imagine, there's a lot more interest in microgrids and a lot more conversations about that happening since about a year.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear more about the shift towards that. I think that there's a lot of sustainability pressure on these companies.
Definitely.
What about you, Kevin? Have you been seeing any farms that are sourcing their energy in different and novel ways?
I haven't seen anybody fully do the solar yet. I'm curious to see, like James says, I'd be curious to see how that really plays in. There are a lot of companies out doing a lot of stuff with microgrids, kind of sourcing from multiple different directions. But primarily, most everybody I've seen is still running off the primary grid. Something that really needs to be addressed. So yeah, I think microgrids. I've done a little bit of research on some biogenerators and a few other options. But nobody utilizing them just yet to good advantage. So
yeah, but people are probably talking about it now. I think it's starting to get to the forefront. But it's with the indoor farms, for example, it's pretty difficult because it's about space saving. So where the solar panel is going to go, and you can't really power that much if you just cover the rooftop. because they're so energy intensive as we just saw. Claudia, what about you? Anything interesting you've been seeing on the sources of energy?
Well, our projects, also our clients, traditionally speaking, still use general electricity and sources of light of energy to power our lights. We have been in, of course, alongside with Montel and Voltserver, having a few different projects that are starting to be interested in digital electricity and those kinds of alternative energy sources. It's starting to happen, but generally speaking, our clients still tend to go to the traditional source.
So James, let's talk a little bit more, because this relates to sort of sourcing and delivery, about digital electricity. Tell us again the value proposition briefly. You mentioned some savings of up to 10%. And I'm also really curious about, any other benefits that exist from this digital energy piece. You mentioned tracking of energy, but what does that really look like?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of benefits. It's
so many benefits.
Yeah, so many benefits. So first, you're implementing just a few things. One, in terms of efficiency, you're implementing basically a DC grid, where basically in certain cases we're eliminating AC entirely from grow spaces. And so that the energy benefit is you're distributing power at a higher voltage using DC power. So you can directly, for instance, you can directly power LEDs with DC power that comes from hundreds of feet away. And because it's a higher voltage, there's this inverse relationship between the amount of energy that's wasted in voltage. So if you're distributing a higher voltage, you're saving electricity, you're using less electricity. Now there's also, when you're distributing this way, when you're using far fewer components and you're eliminating drivers, and you don't have conduit, you don't need cable tray, it's basically an IT appliance. Now you can design your farm in fundamentally different ways. A lot of our time with customers is just helping them understand what we're capable of, and then working with their design teams to basically reinvent the way they build farms. For instance, one of the most common things is, of course, it's just like eliminating drivers from grow spaces. And that has interesting energy benefits. You're removing about, depending on how efficient the driver is, between 5 and up to 10% of the heat load. You're removing it out of a grow space where your HVAC system is much less efficient. And you're moving that heat to a controlled space, your electrical room, where your HVAC is about twice as efficient. And so you're still using energy to eliminate that heat, but it's much more efficient. You're also eliminating tons of equipment. Right now, you're eliminating the ability to control airflow and homogeneity of climate in those spaces is increased substantially. So that itself improves the efficiency of the system. But the big thing, like you're mentioning, because I think everyone here is interested in like these sustainable models, these like microgrid models, and we definitely important companies are making investments in these sort of the plans for these systems right now. But the reason is when you're not constrained by AC, you're actually eliminating 3 conversions, right? And what I mean is you get say energy from the sun, and it produces DC energy. Typically, with traditional electricity, you then have to convert that to AC to distribute to batteries or to lights. But if you remove that conversion, you save about 1% energy there. And then when it goes to your batteries, right, the batteries are DC also. And so there's another conversion loss if you're using AC electricity there. So that's why I say when you actually have these like battery coupled, we call them microgrids, you substantially improve your control, resiliency, and energy efficiency by implementing a full DC grid and just cutting out AC entirely. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it really does. But it sounds like quite a reinvention, as you mentioned. That's a lot of different decisions. Maybe I've built one facility one way, maybe I'm anxious about doing it another way. I mean, what are the downsides? Does it take longer? Does it cost more money? you know, and what are some of the hesitations you're hearing from customers before they decide to go with Voltserver?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's interesting. The hardest problem we have is people don't believe us. And it just seems too good. There's very few downsides. The main downside is that we live in a world that's AC, and a lot of, for instance, with LED companies, they have drivers that take in AC power. So you really need a forward-thinking LED company that has their kind of customers like success at the top of their mind. Because it's not, it's like, I think most LED companies would prefer to also sell their drivers. But there's definitely some, like Lumatek is one of them, that says, no, this is our customers. It's going to be better for our customers. They're demanding direct DC. So we're going to convert our LEDs to, you know, increase the value for the customer. So one is just resistance from a market that has a dependency on AC. And second is just that with any new technology, there's resistance, or people have fear. So much of their facility depends on electricity that they fear, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if something happens? But the fact is, we usually can calm that because, you know, we've been actually in the industry for about 10 years. Most of our customers are Fortune 500 customers. Like one of the use cases is like powering 911 call centers with our system. And so it's extremely well tested and reliable. We power gigantic hotels, skyscrapers, stadiums. So the system is not, the technology is not untested. It's just new to the indoor agricultural space. This is our next market we're going after. And so that familiarity with the, or lack of familiarity with the product is a friction point, but we usually can get over that by going through this design process and education process.
Thanks so much, James. And Cláudia, is Lumatek one of those, you know, innovative, forward-thinking LED companies that James was referring to? Have you all worked together, and how does that look like?
Absolutely. So yeah, we have been working together, actually, Lumatek, Voltserver, and Montel, trying to, you know, like James put it, put the client first, their needs first. This is always the way that, you know, our slogan is helping growers grow, and this is truly our motto, and our what we want to do is truly to help them in any way we can. So if they have been facing issues with energy consumption and energy costs, then let's do what we need to do to provide them a solution. And yes, when we heard about this project and the difficulties they were facing with finding LED companies that were able to adapt their products, because it is an adaptation. We have to remove our drivers and be able to connect to Voltserver system. But, you know, we figured it out. We went to work and we found a solution that will allow our clients to have amazing savings on top of the savings that they already have with LED lighting solutions.
Awesome. And Kevin, can we give do you know the backstory with Voltserver? Because Montel and Voltserver have been working together for a little while. We see you all at exhibitions together. How did that relationship begin?
Yeah, relationship. I mean, Voltserver, it's just, it seems like it was a really good a really good partnership, because their system is easier to wire into our racking system. So, you know, they're running low voltage. You don't have to run high power lines down the racking system. It's easier, just an easier fit to run, especially for food production. You know, that seems to be a really, you know, upcoming market. So it's really starting to hit. And with Voltserver, we're just really kind of finding that niche where everything's working properly with their system, and our system just seems to mesh really well. So it's really just kind of the, just a good fit for everybody. And I was interested when James was talking about the hotels. I know that I think you guys are running the Circa Hotel now in Las Vegas.
That's right.
You guys are all Voltserver in the Circa Hotel. That's a pretty impressive system there. Seen that, it's pretty unique. But yeah, I mean, Voltserver is just a really good, it's just a really good solution, and I think its time is coming, and I think people are really going to see that value behind it.
Yeah.
And can I add one thing to that, Henry, about our relationship with Montel? We have a really interesting customer, and they asked us, they're like, listen, right now we have to deal with our electrical team, a construction team, a racking team, a controls team. Can we get them all out of there and just deal with our racking team? Because people they really like working with Montel. They provide customized racking, they provide really great service, and they're reliable. And so we actually created this product from that, so we could power everything in the room, and so that Montel could come in and just install the racking, install the electrical, power everything, do all the controls, and leave in days rather than months.
Yeah, I love seeing industry partnerships like this coming together for improvement of the client experience, as well as reduction of energy efficiency. So very, very cool to see that collaboration action, have you all here. And so we talked a little bit about energy sources and energy distribution, but let's talk about one of the largest sources of energy demand, which is in indoor vertical farms in particular, is LED or lighting in general, right? So you have different lighting options. Most of the industry is moving towards LEDs. And Cláudia, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about this. Tell us a bit more about Lumatek, its background, some of the main sources of energy demand or heat generation in lighting. Give us the basics, and then how Lumatek is sort of improving upon the key challenges in lighting.
Of course. So Lumatek, we have almost 20 years in the market, in the horticultural lighting market. Initially with the traditional HPS solutions, with our ballasts, with our lamps. We have an incredible client base that really loves the brand and actually advocates for the brand. And we have been having that client base since we started. A few years ago, we actually were at the forefront of the transition or the LED revolution, let's say, in horticultural lighting, which was very exciting, exactly because the company saw the major potential and key aspects and benefits that it truly could bring to our clients. So, we're talking about energy savings. LEDs are able to reduce energy costs up to 40% less than what you would have with HPS solutions. So on top of that, being incredibly efficient, it also allows you to have more control and more precise control over your lighting and control things like light intensity, spectrums, and photo period. So all of these factors combined, Lumatek really was a leader in that movement, let's say, of the industry in general embracing LED and embracing this change. As James said, everyone is always a bit reluctant to change, and the horticultural lighting industry is no exception for that. So we do still have clients that swear by HPS solutions, and we still do carry them for those clients because, like I mentioned before, we put our clients above anything else. Their needs, we will figure out what we need to figure out to provide them a solution. So there are still some demands for HPS, but it's incredibly low compared to LEDs. So LEDs really exploded. All of our projects are mainly LED. With our lighting plans, we can also help figure out the optimal layout, the optimal solution to not only have the best result in terms of production, but also allow you to save as much as you possibly can in terms of energy consumption.
And you do greenhouses, vertical farms, and cannabis, is that right?
Yes.
So a range of HPS and LED lights, top lighting, as well as ones that fit in stacked systems.
Exactly, absolutely. So we do a lot of indoor projects, and also now we have a full vertical farming and full greenhouse range, which allows us to provide solutions to our clients that are, that fit every project. On top of that, we also have the availability and flexibility to adapt our products to our clients' needs and our clients' projects, much like we did to Voltserver's system and to fit in Montel's racks. We can do that with any specific projects that clients come to us that they need our help to find a solution we are able to customize our products for them.
And Claudia, just give us an idea, like what are some of the areas where you're seeing the greatest demand for your solutions? It could be the types of farms or regions. I'm just curious where you're seeing where things are hot for Lumatek right now.
So absolutely, medicinal cannabis projects. So a lot of indoor projects are one of the main requests we get. Also, we are starting to see a lot of greenhouses as well, and vertical farming, which is very exciting. It is an extremely promising aspect and segment of the industry. So we are starting to see a lot of interest peaking in there. In terms of markets, the European market is always a big one for us, but we are starting to see a lot of interest in Thailand as well, mostly due to indoor cannabis, medicinal cannabis projects. So we have really been seeing a really big boom over there.
Great. We're getting some questions in from the audience, which is exciting. So keep them coming and we're going to get to them. One more question for you, Claudia. LEDs, because they're essentially microchips, they have the potential for exponential improvement, reduction in cost and efficiency. Can you talk about that a little bit? And also what's next for Lumatek? Any hints at what's coming as far as your technologies?
Of course. So yes, LEDs are almost equivalent to constant improvement. So the LED lighting has come such a long way since the beginning and is almost, I wouldn't say impossible to keep up, but it's definitely hard to keep up with the constant developments that we can, see in chips and in LED. Definitely looking ahead, the future of LED lighting, and for Lumatek, it's very promising, it's very exciting. So we are at Lumatek constantly doing efforts in terms of product development with increasing our efficacy in mind. So that is one of our main priorities, so that we can give our clients the best product for their buck, the best ratio UMO per dollar, euro, whatever currency you use. And we can expect to see improved efficacy and also enhanced functionality in the next generation of LED lighting. And more specifically for Lumatek, you can expect to see some improved versions of our product, some more extra functions on our controllability. Just a little tease. I can't say too much about that, but it's coming soon, and I think it will be even more exciting for our clients, allowing them to have extra features and extra access and control given to them.
Well, there you go. A little bit of a preview there. Thank you so much, Claudia. So another dimension of energy efficiency is energy related to climate management. As we saw in that economic snapshot from Agritecture Designer, significant portion of that total energy consumption is from climate control. Climate control is about ventilation across the canopy of the plants and through the system, getting hot air out, also making sure the temperature is managed for ideal plant growth overall, and various other factors that mechanical engineers at our team are experts at, as well as these other teams here. But Kevin, I wanted to talk to you about that because I think Montel represents a sort of foundational product. We heard that a lot of deals sort of originate with Montel. They're like working with you, and then other partners are brought into that. But help us talk about the foundations of a Montel project, a little bit about climate control, how you guys optimize that with your partners.
Yeah, firstly, I mean, if you're building a new facility, it's really critical on our end that you reach out early, early and often. Get the best layout we can, because we can help you optimizing the room dimensions, what size, length and width you need, and really kind of help you get that foundation started, where you need your drains, where you need all the other stuff. But then we partner in with control companies, lighting companies, power companies that kind of really help us make you successful. So the idea is to try and make sure that our customers have every option they need. Our control, when it comes down to any farm, any efficiencies are key. So optimizing every aspect, your climate control, some really interesting climate control systems out there now that we partner with. One that I've worked with in the past is an Israeli company that Netafim, and they do a Netaflex system that allows you to control your HVAC system, allows you to control your lighting systems, and allows you to control your irrigation, all from one location. So you have a control center that allows you to really kind of monitor everything that's going on. And key to that is data. So getting that data so that you can really optimize your power usage and what you're using as far as your water consumption, and kind of building into the system so that you're as efficient as possible is really kind of our key. We like to try and really partner with key companies that, you know, can really help you maintain and optimize that position.
And what about, you know, mobile racking in general? Like, why is it so important to reduce the volume of the space that you're growing in? And how does mobile racking, particularly those from Montel, you know, help reduce that overall volume or optimize it so you're not, you know, controlling the climate for something you don't need that's not producing revenue?
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, you know, early on is empty space. You know, you're conditioning an empty space, you know, you have a 20-foot vaulted ceiling. You may as well go vertical and utilize that space to your best advantage. Even on a single level, you know, when you have those aisles, so you have multiple aisles, those are empty spaces that you're conditioning, you're paying for that space. You might as well bring that down so that you have movable benches, allows you to have 1 4-foot space, and then you can move your system accordingly so that you can enter that aisle and have more utilization for that space. And so we're really about space management. The other thing is with having the mobile racks is we can get a little bit better ventilation system and utilize that once you're out of the room, you can space those racks out at a certain distance so that you get better ventilation within the interior of the canopy. And so it's really just utilizing, you know, that efficiency of space.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I can have the density, but I can sort of open up an aisle and allow ventilation to go in, or when I'm out of the room, if I'm distributing CO2 or something like that.
Yeah, and you can do that manually. We have both manual, where you can go in and you can space them out manually. We also have, you know, the very first indoor grow we did was fully electronic. And so it would sense that nobody was in the aisle after a certain amount of time and would automatically space for you. And so we do that as well, if that's something you're looking at. But by and large, most people go with the manual and move spaces around.
And I was surprised. I was looking at some Montel projects, talking with your president, Jerome, and, you know, there's some that I think are like 17 layers high that I've seen. Is that right?
Yeah. Mostly lettuce farms.
At that
lettuce farms, strawberries. Lettuce is really a big one right now. We have a farm in Colorado that's got 14 levels and incredibly impressive to look at. It's, you know, obviously you've only got 60 inches between levels, but to go 14 levels high is pretty impressive to look at.
It's a big tower to move with all the water and the systems. It's got to be really strong infrastructure for that. Pretty impressive.
It is. And we use, you know, the system is designed with anti-tip. We both have an anti-tip floor system and an anti-tip top system, depending on your height. We have to do that for seismic reasons. Obviously, if you're going into a California region or someplace like that, it's pretty critical, up to code, you know.
Great compliance as well. So Claudia, you know, LEDs themselves, they'll create the very essential light that the plants need to produce and photosynthesize and create whatever the flavonoids or anything else you want in the plant as well, amongst other factors that are created from water, irrigation, nutrients, et cetera. But what is the heat effect of the lighting on climate control, for example, and how are you innovating to reduce that? Because, you know, the lights themselves will affect the microclimate. There'll be areas that are overheated. You want maximum density from real estate perspective, but if you go too close, it's too much heat. So how do you work with clients, or how does your tech itself respond to that climate control issue and lighting?
So yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of factors that need to be taken into consideration when designing a lighting solution for any facility. When it comes to controlled climates and thinking about Lumatek lighting in general and Lumatek's lighting features, of course. Although our main product range is based on LEDs, and LEDs are, known for producing significantly less heat when compared to traditional HPS solutions. The main component in LED that does produce the most heat is the driver. I think James mentioned that previously. So the driver is the main source of heat when it comes to an LED product. What our designs have included is remote drivers, detachable drivers, which allow you to place the driver outside of the room, which will help you, decrease a lot of HVAC costs. And on top of that, thinking about controllability as well, you can control all of this with our controller outside of the room, which is also something to take into consideration. And that can also be very useful in terms of maintenance and all of those aspects. But yes, our products work in synergy with other products such as Montel's, Voltserver, and other features like temperature, CO2, fertilizers, all of that comes together. You mentioned how we work together with the clients as a company. I mentioned earlier our light plan. So this is a service that we provide to all our clients. Our technical team, they have full access to the technical team, which there's a number of factors and information that we need from the client. And based on that, we can then design the perfect solution that includes layout, the specific product, but also energy consumption and light intensity, the dimming that it should do, all of that, distance from the canopy, so that we provide the clients with the full solution for lighting. So at least, because we know that there's so many factors to consider in these types of projects, at least with the lighting, if they follow our instructions, they have everything they need to be successful.
Fantastic. So let's move over to one more discussion point here, which is more related to benchmarking and data, which we referred to a little bit earlier. But James, tell us again, why is it so important to measure energy and benchmark? Why is that important for individual operators, and why is that important for our industry that has not been benchmarking and sharing data as much as it could?
It's how intelligent factories and production processes have been improving their energy efficiency for 50 years. You can't measure and observe the amount of energy that different components and processes are using, you can't improve them. And so it's really common in like advanced factories that they're basically monitoring everything, every device. They're monitoring the energy usage, how it's the electrical characteristics, how it's performing. They're gathering that data. And then they have processes to improve that. And that's something we're really missing. Like you said, we're really missing in the CEA space. We like to call it controlled. And I'm a huge fan of controlled agriculture, but environmental agriculture, but it's just not right today. If you're not measuring it,
I'm not sure where the control is. So what are you responding to? Just like whack-a-mole things.
Exactly.
Problems. Kevin, why do you think it's so difficult for people to measure in these operations? I mean, is it the fact that they're doing so many things, the fact that they're new, is the fact that they what's the reason that you think why a lot of operators aren't benchmarking or measuring?
It's just cost.
Excuse me.
I thought
you're fine.
Okay. More than one person can answer.
No, apology. Go ahead.
Just like James said, it is cost, and it's also the excitement of getting open. A lot of times
it's the cost of having a dedicated person that's responsible for it.
Well, the cost of the systems, cost of the operating systems, cost of really installing all that. Most of these control systems, they come at a cost as well, and a lot of people just don't. I don't think that people see the value in it up front, because they're so excited to get open, get operational.
Yeah.
Down the road, they start understanding that there's large value to it, but now they're having to retrofit and go back and get all this stuff put back in. Data driven it's really where the industry needs to start leaning to. It allows you to really optimize your power. Where are you wasting power? Simple things like just having people sensors in rooms that can turn power on, turn power off as people aren't in rooms. Just simple things like that can save an immense amount of power. But having a control system where you can get the data of how much power you're using on your lighting. A lot of companies are doing research now where they can use less light through the initial stage of growth and then intensifying to the last week to week and a half and getting the same output, same yields and even better quality than running your lights at full on the entire time. And this is mostly in the food industry, but being able to see that and compare that and analyze that is really what you need.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it also like if you're an investor and you're investing in an indoor farm, vertical farm, and you're not seeing improvement in efficiency of energy or labor or anything, I don't know how you're going to have a future if you don't measure things, and not to mention making your first facility have any chance of success. It's very, very interesting that you're saying that the cost of management, the costs for it, are difficult for people. Because if you think about the cost to buy all the climate equipment and the cost to buy the lights alone, it's such a significant piece of the CapEx. I mean, it could be 40, 50%. It's just massive, right? So, adding a small percentage on top of that to actually track that it's effective seems pretty logical. But nonetheless, I think people get very excited about the projects being built. They want to avoid complexity. They want to sort of be told like, okay, this is the way to do it right, but do it as cheaply as possible. And that is tough. So that's why we're here trying to inform people and saying, look, you could save 10% with all of your solutions combined. You could save 10%, 20%, 25% energy, right? So that's really significant. So not only finding the right partners, but actually measuring that, especially if you're building an updated facility, is going to save you a lot relative to retrofitting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the large facilities, a lot of your large facilities that are coming in, they see the value in that, and they see the overall strategy to utilizing that. I think it's a lot of the smaller groups, smaller companies that they've spent their money on the infrastructure of lighting and the building, and so they're cutting every corner they can to try and just get operational and try and see that first turnaround. But the large companies I see starting to really start to embrace the technology and the systems that can control, and having a large controls head that allows you to control all of that.
And that makes sense. A lot of the respondents in our survey were on the smaller end of operations. So again, this is a great message to them about what they can learn from. So let's get into some questions from our audience. This first one's for Voltserver. How do you see the growth of confidence in this new digital energy technology in the coming years?
I think it's going to be the new standard, and I hope our company is going to be the one delivering it. But there was recently the National Electric Code was actually changed because of our product. They actually created a new class of power that they call fault managed power, and so it is being adopted, and now it's codified. It's been able through regulations to be installed for years, but now there's a specific definition for digital electricity that they call fault managed power. So that's helping us a lot. Now there's other large companies that are coming into the industry to provide fault managed power also. They haven't delivered products yet, but we expect in the next couple of years they will. And we actually think that's great for us because it's going to increase the size of the market and it's going to lift all the boats. And also it's just communication. We've been stealth for several years because just for competitive reasons. But now we're marketing, we're talking about our success stories. We're talking about the big projects that we've been involved in and ones that we're going to be involved in the future. And we have a lot of great partners like Montel, Lumatek, and lots of other companies that we're building an ecosystem around the product. And so that is going to help adoption a lot.
And what's the smallest of a grow that Voltserver could supply and make a difference with?
We can do any size, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. We have a big cost benefit if you're actually pretty big. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but if you're running our big cost savings comes by eliminating the electrician work that's typically required to distribute power from your electrical room to, for example, LED lights. And if that's a very small distance, like 20 or 30 feet, we're not going to save you any money. But once you get above 100 feet, so it's then we start having, significant cost savings and other benefits. So I would recommend that you look at us if you have pretty significant runs, at least 100 feet between your electrical room and your grow rooms.
That's helpful. Claudia, what do you consider to be the main disadvantage of using LEDs?
Well, I would say the initial investment. Frankly, it's the only disadvantage that I can, imagine. However, that initial investment that you put in fact, LED products are more expensive than HPS through traditional solutions. However, and we have plenty of projects where we actually prove this to clients with our technical team, made all the calculations. We have projects where you can get the full return on investment on the LED lighting as quickly as 10 weeks, and you can get all that investment back only on energy savings. So it's a disadvantage, but it can be very quickly overturned by the savings and the energy efficacy and the amazing results you will actually see on your production.
And briefly, the main advantages were also asked. I think you highlighted some of them, but what are the main advantages?
Yeah, so definitely the high efficacy, low energy costs, less heating costs, also durability. 5-year warranty on almost all of our products is like an attestament of how sure we are in terms of the extended lifespan that they have. And also, I would say sustainability, since it's also a topic on this discussion, because LED lighting, given the fact that they have a bigger lifespan, they produce less waste. Let's say there's less needed for renewal or for maintenance requirements. So I would say those are the key factors on top of amazing optimal results in terms of your growth.
And you have another question here. Does Lumatek have plans to develop a unit with light sensors that would compensate for PPFD and PAR?
Well, that's a funny question in terms of, yes. So light sensors is definitely something we are looking into. Our product development department is very busy and we are looking into a number of improvements that we can do to our solutions, integrating sensors into our LED lighting that would help on that, but other factors as well, such detecting stress in plants before it's visible. All of that is definitely something that we are exploring. In terms of expectation management, this is not included on the soon to be launched preview that I mentioned previously. So this is something more, along the line, but it's definitely being looked at.
Excellent. And we got a general question here about GHAT systems, which I believe are related to geothermal ground heat transfer systems. Do any of you have experience in those? They're mostly in greenhouses, but any comments on this one?
I don't have any experience with them.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think we have either.
No problem. Murat, you can contact us for more information. I can highlight a couple, but definitely I've seen it work in some greenhouses. One of Agritecture's partners, Series Greenhouses, works with them a little bit. It's just another example of high CapEx that has a certain sustainability benefit and certain operational benefit, but it's just a question of that CapEx. So the short answer is, do you have enough high quality product that you could sell to recoup that CapEx? And that's an economic consideration. Okay, let me see. I'm going to answer Jerzy question in a moment here. So that question was about different hydroponic systems that use more or less energy. These are watering systems. So just as we get back to this here, this Agritecture Designer estimate here, you can see that the total energy estimated for this project is 28% of the total operational costs. Again, other things would be labor and depreciation and other things. But you can see here the pumps is a very small fraction of that. So I think I get this question quite a bit. Does aeroponics or hydroponics use more or less energy? Yeah, there are some differences within it. I would say that more passive systems like an NFT system where water flows versus systems that are spraying, like an aeroponic system will use less energy in some cases, but it's such a fraction of the total energy that's not where you should be focusing your energy, pun intended. So that's a short answer to your question. So I want to thank you all for joining this webinar. We're about to wrap up, but we have a special gift for attendees today. And so just to wrap things up, I want to thank Montel. Montel and Agritecture have been working for years to promote the best ways to develop indoor growing systems. And as you can see, Montel has many, many partners that they bring to the table. They've completed projects across cannabis, food, specialty crops, but they are about to hit their 100th anniversary because long before working in indoor vertical farming and CEA, they were actually, and still are, working on building racking systems for some of the world's most amazing libraries, museums. I've seen them for, Boeing airplane materials, mechanics, you name it, incredible racking solutions that are mobile and space saving. Here's a quick visual to have you show what that space saving could look like and the benefits for that from a dollar perspective. We also mention aspects of climate control and being able to increase your capacity. So big benefits there. And they are the leader in the mobile racking solutions. You can check out their site, see all their product options, and they're very, very open to talking to you about your project and what other partners they could bring to the table. And we're proud to have them as one of our Agritecture Designer partners on our software as well. You can get in touch with Montel through this email or any of this information. You can follow their Instagram and see all their exciting posts, their projects. They do some pretty cool updates of their projects, some cool videos, and you can see all the range of things that are being designed with these mobile racking solutions. And we actually, if you email us, Montel, I believe, is giving away free tickets to Green Tech. You need to pay to register for Green Tech, but as an exhibitor, Montel is able to do that. So we definitely really want to see you there. All of us will be at Green Tech. So you can contact me or really Kevin, if you'd like to get a free ticket to attend. And that's going to be a great benefit for you to see some of these technologies in action. You can see Lumatek's solutions. You can see Montel's racks in person. You can talk directly, get your projects done. Green Tech is the world's largest CEA fair. It is not to be missed. And it's in glorious Amsterdam, which it's hit or miss, whether it has good weather this time of year, but we'll be indoors most of the time. So anyway, I want to have a big round of applause for Cláudia, Kevin, and James. Definitely check out their companies, give them a follow. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. This will be recorded and available on Agritecture's YouTube, so check it out there. And again, have a great day and stay efficient. Take care.